RFK Jr., Tony Lyons, to talk about that. Just talk about the process in general. Paul Rykoff and I were talking about it a little bit in our last block, Tony, but this idea of use Utah as an example of what you guys are trying to do with the Kennedy campaign in other states around the country. How's it been going?
It's been going really well. I mean, that fight wasn't our fight. That was Bobby Kennedy sued the state and won very quickly. It was clearly unconstitutional. And, you know, the question is, why should so many people be trying so hard to keep someone off the ballot who's polling at, 22 to 24%, meaning that, 35 to 40 million people in this country want to vote for Bobby Kennedy. So why is the DNC, for example, raising, millions of dollars to fund a law firm to try to keep Bobby Kennedy off the ballot in multiple states? I mean, that should really make people angry. This is a democracy, and it shouldn't be that difficult. I totally understand that if people have, that if candidates have a very small following, 500,000 to 1 million, right, that's one thing. But Bobby Kennedy is a serious candidate. He's got, like I said, 35 to 40 million people who want to vote for him. He should not be kept off the ballot in any state.
Well, the fact that you brought up that that's from the DNC, right, from the Democratic National Committee is what you're talking about, raises an interesting point, I think, in terms of the conversation Kennedy and Cuomo last night about where he might be having the biggest impact. He actually talked about how the fact that he might be taking more Trump votes. Right here, again, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. with Chris last night. Listen to this part of it for a moment.
I'm taking more votes away from President Trump than from President Biden, according to most of the polls, if you believe the polls. My intention is to spoil the race for both of them. I think I'm going to win the race. I think and I wouldn't have said that, and I didn't say it a month ago. So, but I'm looking at the polls now. I'm looking at the trends. I'm looking at the energy of the crowds that we have.
As you pick up on that point, Tony, we'll flash up our most recent polling that we have on this race when you put Trump, Biden, and RFK together. 33 Biden, 35 Trump, who's number one in this poll, but 24 Robert F. Kennedy Jr., which is, nothing to sneeze at. That's a pretty good number for a third-party candidate. But the idea that you talked about the DNC, and then the candidate comes on and says, no, I'm taking more from the Republican.
Right. I mean, like Bobby said, he intends to take votes from both parties, and they'd like to talk about who he's going to spoil for. But he wants to win, and I believe that he's going to win. And if you look at some of the most recent polls, they're really striking. I mean, for all people under 45 years old in the country, he would win if the election was held today. And he's surging with all kinds of groups. I mean, Black people, Hispanic people. He's just surging just day after day and poll after poll.
Maybe it's what we're conditioned to believe because it's what we've seen. But even 92 with Ross Perot, we've seen candidates before, in relatively recent political history have an impact on the race, right? But at the end of the day, they usually become spoilers for one side or another, as opposed to having a true path to victory. It's just the way the system is set up. It's hard to get access. I know you guys are spending millions of dollars, $10, $11 million, whatever it is that you've raised. But what's the actual path to victory? Is there one? If so, can you describe it?
I think the path to victory is that Bobby Kennedy has better arguments. He's got better ideas. He's got policies that the American people want. I mean, more than half of the people in this country right now don't want to vote for Trump or Biden. They've said that in polls. They're looking for an option of somebody who's healthy, who has integrity, who's going to fight for them. And that is Bobby Kennedy. And though, we've had 5 months now of hit pieces in major newspapers day after day, but to see a candidate vilified to that extent and still surging in the polls with so many groups.
But what state is he going to win, Tony, is what I'm asking, right? What state's he going to win? He has to win states. You got to win delegates. I mean, where's he going to pick up delegates? I know he's doing pretty well in the polls for a third-party candidate, but where's he going to win?
So I think that there are a lot of states that he's going to win in. And, what he needs to get is 34%. And he's pretty close to that now with almost a year left.
Okay.
So I think there are a lot of things that can happen. When people hear his arguments, they like him.
Give us one state.
And the only group that he's not doing well with is baby boomers.
Not doing well with baby boomers. So he's not doing well with older people a little bit, the baby boom generation. But we got to go. I'm sorry to press you on this again. But so, again, to do it, you got to win somewhere. So give us a state that Bobby Kennedy can win in.
Yeah, so like I said, I think he's going to win many states. He's going to get past 34%, and he's going to win the election.
We tried. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.